Menopause. Okay, good morning. Okay, yeah, we've got some nice natural light today because I'm too lazy to set up the the lighting equipment. It's such a nice day. I actually might go do a wine tasting. Anyway, okay, so following a number of videos that I've been making for this channel, one of the things that people keep asking me is how can they get on the injectable medication. So for those of you who don't know, I've been on hormone replacement therapy for about 4 to 5 years now, and I was on the pills that were prescribed by the government for a very long time, and then subsequently moved over to the injectable. And so a lot of people had asked how they could also potentially move over to the injectable, and so I thought I'd make this video about how the injection and the pills compare, where you can get it, how to access it, and roughly what the cost difference is. Now, I had made a video before about how HRT has affected my body, but we're not going to specifically talk about this here today. You can go ahead and check that video out. I forget which video it is, but I will link it in the description, so you can go and check out the effects of HRT, specifically talking from my experience. But today specifically we're going to be comparing the pill versus the injection, how the two work, how they are different, how you could potentially access it, and what the cost is, and you can decide whether that is potentially right for you, or you can potentially recommend that to your friends, family, or loved ones. As always, if you are enjoying this content, please remember to hit that subscribe button below, and make sure you leave a thumbs up for this video. Cool, okay, let's get into it. Please tell me I'm recording on the right. Hey, never mind, cancel that. It's going to be a video very specifically for trans women. I'm not a trans man, so I haven't been taking any kind of testosterone or anything like that. So this is specifically talking to estrogen. I just need to put a disclaimer here that I am not a medical professional. And so really I will always advise that you do speak to a medical professional about these medications, how you're supposed to administer them, how you're supposed to take them, because they would be in the best position to advise you medically as to what would be the right decision for you, what would be the right decision for your body, and how to go about safely administering this and monitoring your progress. And so really this video is talking to my very limited medical knowledge about these medications, but then also more directly speaking to my experience on these two medications. And so really this is where the focus of this video is going to be. So currently in South Africa there are two very popular HRT methods. The first one is the pill and the other one is the injection. So if you're doing it through the state, they are going to prescribe you the pills, right? They look like this. The first one is this. Okay, that is a blocker. Okay, so it's going to block your testosterone and all the androgens and that kind of stuff. And then the other one they're going to give you is this. Now this is the estrogen pill. Currently, the state does not prescribe the injection. So if you are doing it through the state, most people go through a state hospital. They are not going to prescribe you the injection. So these brand of pills is the ones that you are going to get. Okay. So the injectable medication that the state does not provide is this little one over here. So this is made by a company called Premarin, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. They are a company that's based here in Cape Town, and they do produce a bunch of medications, and one of them is this, which is the estradiol valeriate. Now effectively that's pretty much just like the estrogen that sits in an oil solution. I think it may be something like castor oil that you will then inject into yourself. So just to talk very quickly about the state's medication, the pill specifically, this is an oral medication that you take daily. So when you go through the state, they will prescribe to you the minimum dosage. They will then track your progress through blood tests, and we will get to the blood tests later on because they are very, very important. And so they'll increase your dosage depending on how you're responding to the medication. Okay, there are two types of medications. One is the estrogen, the other one is the androgen blocker, and they kind of work in tandem to produce certain feminizing effects. So just to talk very quickly about the upshot of the pill, this is like very easy to, consume, because you literally just like take it out and this is like really something that you can like keep in your bag and take this with you wherever you go, leave it in your car. I don't know what you want to do with it, but it is transportable. It's very, very easy, so it is quite convenient in that respect. Where I was problematic with these pills specifically, and this is not necessarily a problem with pills themselves, is that often I would forget to take these pills because you have to take them like every day. And so I would have these reminders that went off on my phone to remind me that I needed to take the tablet because I would genuinely forget. And it's really not great when you miss a dosage or 2 or 3 and then suddenly you're behind it and you're getting moody and stuff like that. It's not great. Yeah, so if you were like me and you struggle to remember to take your pills every day, maybe the pill is like a little bit of a weird option for you. Again, that's it. That's my own fault. This is not any issue with the pill itself. So one of the things the state also did when they issued these to me is that they would give me 2 months supply of both medications. And so this is really partly because the state is so overburdened. The public health system is really a problem. But they are so overburdened that it's better to give 2 months supply of medication as opposed to like a 1 month and you have to keep coming back and spending your whole day waiting in queues and lines and taking off time from work just to grab your medication. So they usually issue this in a 2 month prescription. Now I was at Grooteskier Hospital, and Grooteskier for the most part was quite good with me. Again, it was a state hospital, so there are lines and you do end up spending half a day to a whole day to pick up your medication. And so the Department of Health is working toward digitizing the whole system where you're able to make a digital appointment and then I'll send you SMSs when your medication is ready for collection or to notify you of appointment. So they are improving their system in that kind of way, but it does still take quite a significant amount of time in order to get your hands on these pills, just because the healthcare system is so overburdened. So for the injection specifically, and this is the one that I'm currently on right now, I am doing a subcutaneous injection. What that means is I'm injecting the medication into the fat tissue in my body. So that's usually like in a place where there's kind of like fatty tissue, so it's usually around your stomach area, or you can like do it in your thigh if you want. The other way to do it is to do it intramuscularly, where you are effectively injecting that directly into the muscle. Now the difference between the two different methods of administering the injection is that if you inject it into the muscle tissue, that provides for faster absorption of the medication into your system. The subcutaneous injection, so that's into the fat, provides for a much more slower absorption of the medication into your system. As far as I know, there hasn't been any evidence to suggest whether the intramuscular or the subcutaneous has any better effects in terms of its feminizing process, but for me, one of the things that my doctor told me was that the slow release of the estrogen into your system is going to allow for a more even experience in terms of how this is being absorbed into your system, and then subsequently how this is going to affect your physiology, affect your mental space and your emotional state. So subcutaneous slow release was better for me specifically, as advised by my doctor. So in terms of administering the two types of medication, the pills are far more easier because you literally just pop them and swallow them and then you're done, you know. The injection's a little bit more tricky because not only do you have to carry this vial around with you, but you're also going to need accessories in order to administer the injection. So what you're going to need really is an injection kit, which consists really of medical syringes. Then you're going to need 2 sets of needles, a thick needle, a thin needle. You're going to need cotton swabs, and you're going to need alcohol pads. So it's a lot of stuff just to administer the injection. So that's it. If you have a little bit of a fear of needles, that might also be a factor in considering moving over to the injectable medication. I don't really have an issue with needles specifically, but they do kind of freak me out. But from doing this over and over and over again, it really stopped becoming a thing for me, and now I'm like, ooh, yay, great. Like really, it's not so bad. So the other thing about administering that injection is that you also have to dispose of your needles properly, right? So you need like some kind of hard plastic container to keep all your needles in, because you can't just like chuck them in the bin, because you know people steal it and there's all kinds of issues. And so then once that container is full, you ideally need to take that to a place that is able to dispose of medical waste, because it is in fact medical waste. The injection is a little bit more complicated than just popping a little pill. It does require some effort and some consciousness around how you're administering it, when you're taking it, and then also again subsequently what you are doing with your medical waste afterwards. So in terms of the regularity, the pills you take every day and the injection you take once a week. So I was on the injection for that once a week shot, and what I found was that nearing the end of the week, so basically once everything's been absorbed into my system, I felt a very big dip, particularly in my mood, and that was not great for me, not great for my partner, not great for the people around me. I was just becoming a horrible person. And so my doctor advised that I could, if I wanted to, split that dosage in half. So I take half of my shot in the beginning of the week, and then I do another shot midway through the week. And so that way I'm kind of balancing out and giving a more even distribution on absorption of the medication into my system. So I am currently on a 0.6 milligram dosage per week, which I then split into 0.3 milligrams every 3 to 4 days. So I said that the state provides you 2 months worth of supply for the oral medication. For the injectable medication, which you can only get privately or through a specialized clinic, this vial, which is a 5 milliliter vial, will last me roughly 6 weeks, I think, about. So one of the big considerations, particularly in opting which medication that you go for, is the cost involved. So the oral medication through the state is obviously going to be more affordable because of the way that the state works in terms of how it charges its clients, right? So the state will charge you on a sliding scale based on your level of income. They will then have a tiered, structured plan as to how those charges get allocated. So the less you earn, the more subsidized the medication becomes, and the more you earn, the less subsidized the medication becomes, i.e. the more you earn, the more you pay for the medication. Now the medication is not free. They will charge you something, although that fee might potentially be nominal. You are going to pay for it either way. If I remember correctly, I was paying somewhere in the region of say 200 to 300 rand for 2 months supply of this medication because of the level of the dosage that I was on. So obviously the higher the dosage, the more medication you have to take, which means the more you have to fork out for more medication. So for the injectable medication, this little vial costs 650 rand. So like I said, it lasts me roughly 6 weeks. But that isn't the only cost that you incur for the injectable. You then have to separately purchase your injectable things, So the injection kit, roughly for about 6 weeks worth of treatment, will cost me roughly in the region of about $100, and that includes for the cotton pads, for the injectables, for the alcohol pads, all of those little accessories that I need cost roughly $100, and then the medication specifically is 650 rand, which you're looking at potentially 750 rand for about 6 weeks of medication. But this is also going to be highly dependent on what dosage you are on. If you're on a higher dosage, obviously the medication is going to last you for a shorter period of time. If you're on a lower dosage, that's going to last you a lot longer. Also considering if you're doing the injection only once a week, or if you're like me, splitting your dosage into 2 times a week, that's also going to impact the cost of how much injection accessories you're going to have to purchase. The needles and the syringes and those pads you can really pick up from any kind of like pharmacy. You can buy it at Clicks or at Dischem. They do sell them. You just got to know which specific ones you need for the injectable. So really looking at the two, the injectable medication is going to cost you double, if not more, than the pills that you are getting directly from the state. So you're going to have to decide that for yourself in terms of where you sit in terms of your financial position, what is going to be best financially for you. So I did talk a little bit about my experience on the injection versus the pill, and I will link that video below, and maybe I'll do a pop-up of that video over here, I don't know. What I found for me personally was that I was generally quite happy on the pill. It was doing the things that it needed to. Again, when you start this medication, the progress is really slow, and so you have to be patient with yourself and patient with the medication, because it does take a little bit of time to produce certain number of effects. If you think about when you went through puberty, like those changes took so long, and so you have to be patient in the same way with your medication, because effectively it's putting you through another kind of puberty in that way. So again, patience is absolutely key. I know I keep saying that because people people, start the medication and then a month in, they're like, oh, but I'm not seeing any changes. Babes, you've got to wait. When I moved over to this injectable medication, that was, I think, nearing the end of last year, so that was maybe almost a year ago. What I found was that the injectable medication kind of kick-started my system again. So I'd been on the pill for like 4 years, and again, slow progress, and changes were starting to happen. And then I reached a point, I think, where I was leveling out in terms of particularly my breast growth, particularly in my skin. And then since moving over to the injection specifically, it's like that injection like re-kicked that system into gear, which was really, really amazing. My boobs got sore again, and like they still kind of a little bit, like started noticing my skin started getting a little bit more clearer. I also noticed that there's been a little bit more of a shift in terms of the fat distribution of my body. Like I got a lot in my arms, like you see that? Yeah. So really for me personally, the injection has done a lot for me, and I prefer that over the oral medication for a number of reasons. Firstly, again, I'm forgetful to take my medication daily, whereas with the injectable, I really set a reminder for myself on my phone, and then I just do the injection at home like in the morning, and then I go about my day, and then I don't have to think about it again. Now, one of the things that I'd also been advised by my doctor about was that when you are on the pill, so now when you're specifically on the estrogen and you're on the blocker, it does put you at higher risk for certain types of complications, and one of those complications are DVT, I think it is, deep vein thrombosis. So it does increase your blood pressure quite significantly, and you are at risk for clots and all kinds of other complications. One of the things that was also pointed out to me, and it didn't occur to me at the time, keep saying to myself like, oh, I'm going blind, like I couldn't like really see like the text on my computer anymore, and so I had to wear my glasses, which was weird. And so honestly, like I hadn't thought about it until my doctor pointed out to me that potentially it was the blockers that were affecting my eyesight, and I was like, okay. Now that said, it doesn't mean that there aren't any side effects or risks with the injectable medication, but as far as I was made aware, the risks and the complications and the side effects are significantly lower for the injectable medication. So that's why she recommended that I go on the injectable. So another thing to note is that I am only on this estrogen shot. I'm not taking any kind of blocker, which is very, very different to how the pills work. So you've got to take the estrogen pill with the blocker. So my doctor indicated that one doesn't necessarily have to be on a blocker because once the level of estrogen in your bloodstream or in your body kind of reaches a particular point, it kind of, to a certain degree, nullifies the testosterone in your system, and so your body will naturally reduce the amount of testosterone that it is producing. Now again, I've been on this medication for a year, and I can say that I have had a major improvement in a number of different areas in my life. One of the things I did note about moving off the blockers and only being on this was that there was a massive improvement, particularly for me, in my sex life and in my sex drive, which was really, really amazing. So I know for some trans women, and for me as well, there was a time where, because I was on the HRT for a bit, that it had effectively killed my sex life, like my drive was like non-existent. I then kind of leveled out a little bit, and I got some of my sex drive back, which was great, thank goodness. But then since moving to the injectable medication, I've seen an improvement in my sex life. I've also seen an improvement in my mood generally. So the injection for me is a lot more stable for me in a number of aspects, and so I don't think I would ever want to go back to the pill. But again, that's just my personal experience. Other people might have different experiences being on either medication. But one thing I do want to say is that if you are on a medication called Premarin, right, get off that like now. Don't like stop taking that. Like it's a horrible medication. So it's been linked to like all kinds of issues around kidney failure, liver failure. It's damaged people's eyesight. It's a very old medication that's been pushed for women who have menopause, as far as I'm aware, and it's really not suitable as a hormone replacement therapy. Like, it's bad. If you're on that, get off it as soon as you can, please. Okay, so one of the things that I can't stress enough is that if you are on any type of medication, whether that's a chronic thing, whether you are wanting to go on some specific type of regimen, you have to monitor that and be responsible with your health. And one of the ways, particularly if you are on HRT, or you're looking to feminize some of your features, is that you have to do regular blood tests. I can't stress enough how important this is. I have an underlying condition called a G6PD deficiency. Now, I'm not necessarily going to go into the details about that, but effectively, my liver to a particular degree is fragile. One of the things that I had to disclose to my doctors were if I had any kind of pre-existing or underlying conditions, or if I was on any kind of current medication, and you generally do like a physical exam to kind of get a sense of where your health is at. You also then do blood tests to see where your body is in terms of its levels, and so effectively what you're doing is establishing a baseline of where you are at medically in terms of your body. And then once you start a regimen, you have to constantly go for blood tests in order for the doctors to monitor you in your transition, medical assisted transition specifically, to make sure that you are safe. These blood tests are not being done for like funsies, like they are in place for a very, very real reason. If you are on hormone replacement therapy, you are putting things into your body that is going to alter your physiology, and you have to monitor that all the way through. When you start hormone replacement therapy, you're going to go for blood tests about every 3 months, and then subsequently after a period every 6 months, and then after that a year. So you can't just randomly take medication. The dosage that you are being prescribed must be prescribed by a doctor, and those dosages are specific to your body in terms of how your body functions. If you decide to take like a higher dosage of something for some weird reason and you think it's going to produce particular results, that might not be the case. In fact, it might be counterproductive for you to just suddenly up your dosage for no apparent reason without any kind of medical guidance, because it might have effectively counterintuitive effects. And not only that, it can be really damaging to your health, particularly to your kidneys and your liver, and so just be safe and always make sure that you are doing blood tests. And I will always recommend that you do hormone replacement therapy through some kind of medical professional. Like, I can't stress how important that is. Either way, whether you are on the pill or the injection, blood tests is an absolute must. It's something that you can't avoid. Please go and do them so your doctor can really monitor your progress. And really, honestly, for me, it's worked in the best way possible. I am very happy with where I am in terms of my medical assisted transition. The injectable has done, again, wonders for me. If you are wanting to access the injection specifically, you're going to have to do that privately. There are potential clinics who may potentially administer or prescribe the injection specifically, and I will link that below so you can get in contact with them to check if they have a clinic in your area and whether or not they can prescribe you the injectable medication. They will also be able to do the blood test for you, so really everything is safe, and following medical procedures to make sure that you are safe and that your medical assisted transition is as smooth as possible, and that you are getting the desired outcomes that you want. Cool. If you have any kind of questions, drop them in the comments below, or find me on Instagram. You can DM me there and I will do my best to try and answer them. Yeah. As always, if you enjoyed this content, remember to hit that subscribe button. Okay, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.